What's going on, everybody? Talking through the week 9 DFS main slate for DraftKings as I do every week. You can find this article for free currently at beatbestball.com. Hope everyone's having a lovely Friday. So each week we like to start this off by just seeing who won last week. Sometimes you could take away things from this, sometimes you can't. Rick, bunch of numbers, took it down last week. Naked Bo Nix with the Chuba Hubbard bringback at 1%. Didn't do anything, but notable. James Cook and Bills D-Stack, the key to winning for this lineup. Hashtag should have been me. Lad McConkey, one of my top plays last week, scored 32. Slot wide receivers, Dallas Goedert, guys have been killing the Saints over the middle of the field. Hence, Lad going off. And then Bijan and Chase as one-offs with Cade Otton and Cedric Tillman. Some nice synergy there where Cade Otton, of course, the chalk tight end. And when you play Cade and other people are playing the cheap Bucks, Jalen McMillan, etc., of course, you play a cheap Brown instead, getting 2 touchdowns from him. I like to look at a dog bowl draft on Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Cheslium to get up and running on Underdog. Just to see if there's, these are half-point PPR snake drafts, so it's a way independent of salary to value the players. Not a lot to take away from this week's board, but Marvin Harrison Jr., nearly 7K on DraftKings, going after guys like Ladd, who is cheaper, Olave's cheaper, Mooney's cheaper, Chase Brown's cheaper. So he's going to be, 1 to 2%. People are going to be jamming these running backs up here. Running backs continue to smash. A lot of these guys in good spots. And we haven't seen paying up at quarterback work often to win tournaments the past 2 years. But Allen, Hurts, Lamar, Daniels, all on this slate is notable. NFL implied team totals, top 5, Bills and Ravens, 27.5, Falcons, 27.25, Bengals, 26.75, Eagles, 26.5, bottom 5, Patriots, 17.25, Panthers, 18.25, Broncos and Jags, 19, and the Raiders, 19.75. Highest over-unders, Falcons, Cowboys, 51.5, Bills, Dolphins, 49, Packers, Lions, 48.5, Seahawks, Rams, 48, and Bengals, Raiders, and Ravens, Broncos tied at 46.5. Getting up to my favorite plays. Quarterback. Number 1, Justin Herbert. I mean, he's 5,300. The Browns, solid defense. They have a good pass rush, but Herbert seems finally healthy after having a foot injury in August. He had 49 rushing yards last week, including a 38-yard run. And since the week 5 bye, the Chargers have been a positive pass rate over expectation team. So at 5,300, you really only need him to score 20, maybe 25 points to be in contention to win tournaments. Assuming that, Josh Allen, Hurts, Lamar don't go for 40 plus. Josh Allen at 7,700. Just a lot of things coming together for Allen this week where I think Hurts will be way more popular against the Jaguars. So Josh Allen going to be low owned. The Bills have led the league in pass rate over expectation since acquiring Amari Cooper. Cooper, wrist injury. He's questionable. I think he'll play. And the Bills have averaged, I think, 39 points per game over their last 8 matchups versus the Dolphins. Of course, that's going over a multi-year sample. The Bills have just destroyed the Dolphins almost every time they play them. And so if it isn't James Cook getting the touchdowns, then I think this is a great chance for Josh to have his first 35 plus point game on the season. He was like 2% owned last week. Could be similar. Probably going to be a little bit more popular with the pass rate over expectation being strong, the implied total being top on the slate, but just a great matchup. Hurts, of course, he's a strong play too. He's going to be very popular. Good reason. A.J. Brown just in a true nuclear spot versus man-heavy Jacksonville. Like literally the best wide receiver in football against man coverage. The tush push isn't going anywhere. Hurts has 7 rushing touchdowns, including 5 over his last 2 games. The Eagles have been pretty rush heavy as of late, so it's a little worrisome. You know, it could be Saquon getting the points, but the Jags are a pass funnel. They're 31st in passing yards allowed and 9th in rushing yards allowed. And they've been trailing a bunch of games. So, you know, you think that would be reversed. And they're 30th in points allowed. And they're also like selling off parts of their team. And then I attached this graph here by Chris Wetcht of fantasypoints.com. And this is just the pass rate over expectation for the year, the green dot being their most recent outing. And this is the Eagles here. Their green dot, it means they were, you know, pass rate over expectations means you're expected to pass. They were over minus 10% negative pass rate. Whereas the Bills, you can see they're positive 5%. The Broncos were over positive 10%. The Chiefs were nearly positive 10%. So the Eagles have been choosing to run the ball this year. Drake May, 5,500. I don't know if he's going to play concussion, but if he does, I'm interested, right? He's 5,500. I just think he's going to be a great quarterback in the league. He's cheap. He was well on his way to another 20-point adding against the Jets last week before he got knocked out for the concussion. Yeah, he's just, you know, any single given week, he could get two rushing touchdowns, 50+ rushing yards. He's just like a better Daniel Jones. But yeah, he might not play. Dak Prescott, 6,300. I mean, he's in the dome. We know the Falcons' pass rush is bad. And even if the Falcons are able to pile on points, the Cowboys have shown they can get there in garbage time. You know, like them throwing touchdowns to CeeDee Lamb to nearly close the score against the 49ers. So Cowboys are 3-4. They've lost 2 straight games. This is like they can't fall to 3-5. If they're going to stay alive in the playoff hunt, they're third in their own division. They got to get this win. Geno Smith, 5,800. I'm a lot more interested if DK Metcalf plays. If he doesn't, I'm not as much. I mean, he's just very cheap. The Seahawks continue to lead the league in pass rate over expectation. And really great recipe where he gets a bad Rams defense who have a great offense, which is just a great recipe for shootouts. You know, Rams can't stop anyone, but they can score. So it just leads, back and forth affairs should be in the Rams' future. Rams also playing very pace up. The Seahawks not as much pace up. So I think usually the pace up teams can kind of make the slower teams play fast. Caleb Williams, 6,100, kind of a hot take here. I'm just giving him another chance this week, right? Like, I think people think the Commanders' defense is terrible, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as the Cardinals' defense. You know, like they're fighting with the Panthers for worst defense in the league. They're now 2 weeks removed from the London game, which you can't have hangovers from. And Caleb almost had 100+ rushing yards last week. I think he did have like 50. But you know, if he made 1 or 2 guys miss, he would have had well over 100. So rushing ability, bad defense, what's not to like? And then yeah, Daniel Jones, 5,200. You'll notice there's a lot of pay down quarterbacks just because, again, salary game, you want to generally pay up at the other positions. He's 5,200. Just like, you know, the Herbert point, you just need him to get like 15 to 20 points to be winning tournaments as long as no quarterback nukes the slate. Look no further than when the Giants played the Commanders in week 2, where Daniel Jones only scored 18 points on a week with no buys, by the way. But he was the winning Millie Maker quarterback that week. Running back, Bijan Robinson. Yeah, Falcons, huge implied team total. Cowboys defense, terrible. They're 31st in rushing yards allowed, 31st in points allowed. Bijan's averaging over 25 points per game over his last 3 games and seen 16 targets. So game script proof, terrible defense, great running back, smash spot. James Cook, 7,200. Miami's front 7 is already not good. And they've suffered more injuries. I think they lost Jalen Phillips or something like that for the year. If it isn't the Josh Allen show, Cook should smash. He averaged over 7 yards a carry versus Miami in week 2 and scored 28.5 points. I think you can stack Cook with Allen. Obviously not my favorite stack, but it is doable. Devon Achane, 6,700. Yeah, I mean, as someone that watches all the Bills games, teams love to let the Bills rush the passer, which they have a good pass rush, and then they love to hit the screen. And that is Achane's music. He's averaging over 26 points per game in healthy Tua starts. And Buffalo's a very tough matchup for outside wide receivers. Like, no one has gotten there. So Tyreek, Waddle, not a good matchup. Achane, though, he should be heavily involved. He's seen targets of 7, 7, and 8 in healthy Tua starts. DeAndre Swift, 6,400. I mean, bad defense, cheap, strong usage. Lock it in. He's going to be popular. He scored a touchdown in his past 4 games and scored over 20 fantasy points in his past 4 games as well. He's just going to have a 35 or higher game soon when he scores 2 touchdowns, right? Like last week, he scored 20 plus purely through rushing work. Saw no targets, nothing. So you get him to 5 targets, you get another touchdown. That's when you start getting those 35, 40-point games instead of 20. Tyrone Tracy at 5,500. Assuming he clears concussion protocol, which it seems he is, he's just too cheap. He sent Singletary to the shadow realm. The Giants just need explosive playmakers, and that's what Tyrone Tracy has. He has a 9.78 raw athletic score, RAS, out of 10. Singletary, on the other hand, he's more of like a make a guy miss. So Tyrone Tracy, cheap, good matchup, lock him in there. Chase Brown, 5,900. Takes a little bit more faith for this one, but it's really not hard to see the blow-up game for Chase Brown versus the Raiders. He's a home run hitter. The Raiders are a run funnel defense, and that might just be the recipe to get that smash. Over his past 5 games, he's seen rushing attempts of 15, 12, 10, 15, 12, and targets of 2, 3, 3, 2, and 4. So you just need him to get like an 80-yard touchdown, 65-yard touchdown. Moss, he's more of the grinder. So Chase Brown, strong matchup, good salary range for him. And then Chuba Hubbard, 6,500. I wrote this before. Brooks is not going to be activated, but I'm interested in Chuba. I think people are going to play Alvin Kamara, and so Chuba should inherently be a little bit less owned. The Saints defense absolutely decimated, right? And, we've seen a lot of running backs smash against them. I think his salary range could have him just be the forgotten man. Like, people will probably prefer Tracy. They'll strongly prefer Swift. They'll prefer Achane. So you could be getting Chuba in a good matchup at 3%, 4%. And he's a strong just bet for 20 plus points in any given week. He didn't even get drafted in that dog bowl draft, if you look at it. And then Kyren Williams, I tried not to write up most of the top guys just because they're obvious, they're expensive. But if Seattle has a strong pass rush, and I could, maybe that's the recipe for Kyren seeing 5 plus targets again. He saw 7 last week against the Vikings, who tend to blitz. And even if not, his workload is just the best in the NFL. Seahawks are 29th in rushing yards allowed. Wide receiver, Puka Nacua, 7,200. I did a mix of the pay up wide receivers and then just cheaper ones. He did pop up with a knee injury yesterday, the same knee he hurt. Now, reporting on injuries has been terrible. You can almost believe that if it's being reported on, do we weigh it? Because like if it was a serious injury, maybe they don't report it at all because they don't want the Seahawks to know Puka's not 100% when they game plan, right? Like that's kind of the era we are in with news. So I'm choosing, apparently the injury's not serious. Now, maybe that's a false flag. Maybe the injury is pretty bad. They want them to prep for Puka. But depending on how you are reading that situation, if you think Puka is actually pretty injured and I'd wait for more reporting here, then go with Cooper Kupp, who's 7,700. But if you think Puka's fine, fire him up. Absolutely, one of Puka or Kupp are absolutely going to just get peppered with targets. Seahawks, good pass rush. Not great defending the wide receiver, though. So it's just going to lead to more quick passes, similar to why we saw Khalil Shakir so heavily involved for the Bills. So, yeah, just really low salary, good player. The injury is the only question. AJ Brown, 8,100. I mean, bad defense that runs man against the best wide receiver in football against man defense. Just a nuke spot. He doesn't usually see as many targets as like Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, but just really feels like he can drop 40 this week. Ladd McConkey, 5,600. It's looking like the Chargers are going to get Quentin Johnston back. I think they're going to get DJ Chark active this week. They might get Hayden Hurst back as well. But I think all of this should just open up the middle of the field more for McConkey. He seems fully healthy from the hip injury, and he's breaking out, right? He scored 30 last week. We saw Zay Flowers get 12 targets versus the Browns, and I could see Ladd involved to that tune as well. When a team has a good pass rush, typically you try to hit quick throws to counter that, which is Ladd's music. Khalil Shakir, 5,900. He's going to be very low owned at the salary range. He's averaging over 13 PPR points in his healthy games. His first read target share is quite strong the past 2 weeks. He catches absolutely everything thrown his way, leads the league in catch percentage. The Bills have the highest implied total on the slate. He's also just an awesome yard after catch player, right? His ADOT is not that high, but he does a lot with those catches. And Amari Cooper just seems to really be opening up the middle of the field for Shakir. Jalen Coker at 3,600. He's just a really strong salary saver. I view him as a 1A, 1B to Leggett for the Panthers. No Adam Thielen again. No more Deontay Johnson. So good wide receiver. Terrible Saints defense. Bryce Young, not the best, but who cares? Cedric Tillman, he's 4,300. The Chargers are a good defense, but, it's fair to question how legit they are because they've had games against the Saints, the Broncos, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Raiders. So they're probably not as good as they appear on paper. Since Amari Cooper has been traded, he's averaging over 10-plus targets a game, and he gets a quarterback upgrade with pass-happy Jameis Winston and an offensive coordinator upgrade since Ken Dorsey is calling the plays, and he loves the pass. Malik Neighbors. If you like targets, Neighbors is your guy. I mean, he's always open. He has legit a 99 open score for ESPN Analytics. He's seen 12-plus targets in 4 out of his 6 games. He's going to drop 50 points at some point this year with his combination of explosiveness and route running. Like, it's going to come. So, could he be priced closer to 9K eventually? Absolutely. Chris Olave. This is the reason why guys like Khalil Shakir will not be popular. He's only 6,100. He's going to be chalk. He had 14 targets last week. He gets the worst defense in the league in the Panthers. So, yeah, just good play. Tight end. My favorite paydown tight end is Jonnu Smith, 3,500. Just like how I think Achane is going to be involved to counter the pass rush for the Bills, I think Smith's going to be used in the same way. It's a bad matchup for Tyreek and Waddle, so it's not going to be surprising to see Smith out-target both of them. He's kind of leverage off of Achane too, where if he is catching a screen, it means Achane is not. And he has yard after catch ability. Brock Bowers, he's 6K. The Chiefs were really able to limit him last week, but the Bengals absolutely will not do the same thing. Smash spot, cheap guy, going to see 10-plus targets. David Njoku, 5,500. Chargers are first against outside wide receivers. Again, that might not be as real as it appears. But they're 19th versus tight ends. He's going to be popular. Good reason. Affordable, cheap. Just a really good player. Evan Ingram, 5,300. No Christian Kirk. Likely a trailing game script for the Jaguars. Should mean plenty of targets for Evan Ingram. Dalton Kincaid, 5K. Last time the Bills played the Dolphins, they opened up with a bunch of scripted work to Kincaid, and then he took a knee to his helmet. And I think he remained in the game, but he was barely targeted from that way. So Miami's definitely more vulnerable in the middle of the field than they are versus outside wide receivers, right? Guys like Jalen Ramsey on the outside for the Dolphins. So not hard to see Kincaid getting there against the Dolphins. Sam Laporta. Jared Goff threw 15 passes last week, and Laporta had 6 targets with no Jameson Williams. So cheap, strong matchup, great play. Colby Parkinson, 3,700. If you do think the Puka knee injury is real, I could see Parkinson seeing 7, 8, 9 targets this week to counter the pass rush. So He's cheap. He's in the mix. And then Jake Ferguson, 5,100. He's just the second target on the Cowboys in my eyes, and I still believe in Dak for fantasy. We just saw Kate Otten drop 30 on the Falcons. Defense, Bills, they're 3K. Dolphins got a bad O-line. The Dolphins are going to pass a lot. It's a good pass rush. That's a good recipe for fantasy points. Patriots, they're 3K. They get the bad Titans. Chargers, 3,300. Good D. Turnover-prone quarterback in Jameis Winston. Bears, 2,800. Just a very good defense. Giants, they're 2,300. They're cheap. Cheapest defense on the slate. They're a good defense. They have a strong offense, so if you don't like that, not for you. Broncos, 2,700. Really, really good D facing the Ravens, so strong offense, but it is a good defense. Sometimes the defense wins. Browns, 2,900. Just a good pass rush, good defense. And the Titans, 3,200. They get the terrible Patriots. Leverage spots and game theory plays. Number one, play 2 of the 5K tight ends. So take your pick here. Evan Ingram, Njoku, McBride, Kincaid, Laporta. There's plenty of guys to like in this range. And compared to wide receivers at that cost, I just prefer the tight ends. And just playing 2 tight ends always going to be unique. You always see the top fantasy guys, DFS guys doing this, by the way. Guys like Utical. Number 2, pay up for a non-Jalen Hurts quarterback. If Hurts is going to be the chalk, it is Friday, so chalk hard to say, but I think logically he's going to be the pay up guy. If he's going to be grabbing a lot of ownership, I'd much rather just play Josh Allen, Lamar, Jaden Daniels. We know these guys can go for 40 in any given week. If they're low owned, take it to the bank. Number 3, you can almost do this every single week now, I think, but if you just play four wide receivers, you're going to be competing with less lineups. There's so many good running back plays. That means that people are going to want to play 3 of them. They have nice floor ceiling combos. So yeah, play 4 wide receivers, compete with less builds. Number 4, I think this week, balanced lineup will be less popular. Stars and Scrubs is going to be popular because you got pay down options like Jalen Coker or Cedric Tillman. So when they zig, we zag. Number 2 or 5, jam 2 8K wide receivers. So I think all else equal, the field will almost always prefer to pay up for Kyron, Bijan, Saquon, etc. They're not as always going to want to pay up for Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown and Jamar Chase, etc. So paying up for 2 wide receivers, huge ceiling, rare. We know that these guys can drop 50 points in any given week. And if 2 of them combined is low owned, I'm interested. Number 6, just Saquon Barkley. Yeah, I mean, if Hurts and AJ Brown are the chalk, then Saquon going off is the clear path to failure there, right? Saquon doesn't get tackled at the 1. That means no tush push for Hurts, right? Saquon runs an 80-yard rush. That means no 80-yard touchdown for AJ Brown. Number 7, quite like this one. Play 2 to 3 of the unpopular 7 to 6K wide receivers. So Khalil Shakir, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison, Jaden Reed. There's a bunch of other guys. These guys should, we all know that they can go for 30 plus points in a given week. And they're just not going to be that popular because people are going to play Drake London at 6,700. They're going to play Chris Olave. And so these guys are going to soak up the ownership for good reason. But, football's chaotic. Can DJ Moore score 35 and Drake London go out in the first quarter? Absolutely. Right? So building like a balanced lineup with a couple of these guys, quite intriguing to me. And then 8, just the Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, I think we're going to get like 2% owned Sun God, right? AJ Brown, Malik Neighbors, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase with no T. Higgins. Like all these guys are going to be more popular than Amon-Ra St. Brown. If people are playing Lions, I think they'll prefer Laporta at 4,800, Jahmyr Gibbs. So 2% owned Sun God. What's not to like? And then the cheap plays, always like to end this with 3 cheap plays if you need a salary saver for your lineup. Quarterback, Herbert, Drake May, Daniel Jones. Running back, Tyrone Tracy, Chase Brown, Alexander Madison. Wide receiver, Jalen Coker, Cedric Tillman, Kayshon Boutte. And tight end, Jonnu Smith, Noah Fant, Will Dissly. And defense, the Giants, the Seahawks, or the Cardinals. Like to keep this video short and sweet. I know not everyone wants to consume a 7-hour game-by-game breakdown. So hope you guys like this write-up. You can check it out at beatbestball.com. I will be back Sunday morning answering any start-sit questions, answering any DFS cram questions. So tune in Sunday morning. Check my Twitter or join my Discord, which is linked below if you want to get notified when I go live there. Good luck this week and enjoy your weekend.